A modest proposal starts in your book on page 315. Now, through the whole thing, please notice his phrasing. It's a melancholy object. Beggars of the female sex, thieves. He's setting up the words, trying to show, as he explains, the present deplorable state of the kingdom. And he does in this first part. He is explaining just how bad things are. Now, his intention is not just to complain about this and not do anything, which is what, excuse me, what the English government has done, but his intention, it says he has a greater extent. He's going to take care of these things. He has a very scientific approach. We have maturely weighed. He has very scientific references, statistics, and he sounds as though he is discussing breeder sows and cattle. A child just dropped from its dam. That's not normally how we refer to childbirth. But he's pointing out here that a mother could feed the kid, nurse it, for a year and really not have to pay for any food. So raising a child to the age of 1 is pretty cheap. He says that this will prevent those voluntary abortions and that horrid practice of women murdering their bastard children, alas, too frequent among us, sacrificing the poor innocent babes. I doubt more to avoid the expense than the shame. So he's saying these women just can't afford to raise their kids, so they're killing them. And this would take care of that. Now, I calculate here on the bottom line. Scientific approach, he makes a number reference, 200,000. So he's going to be referring to numbers and statistics. 200,000 whose wives are breeders. That language is likening them to animals, to cattle, to pigs. Now, he goes on, he breaks it down numerically. He's got a certain number who are capable of being breeders. Then, there's going to be some who just can't, and he comes on down, subtracts those women who have miscarried. So we've only got a certain number, and we're only going to deal with them. And remember, this is only in Ireland. His full title just makes reference to Ireland. He is not proposing this for England or any other country. Now, throughout this paragraph on page 316, he is calculating and showing the numbers like any good government official might do. He's an economist. He goes on and points out that these children, a boy or a girl before 12 years old, is no saleable commodity. Basically, as far as the British government is concerned, these people are worthless. So he makes his proposal. He says he will humbly propose. Down here, he makes the humble offer. Now, between this humble proposal and the humble offer, he also passed the buck because he is typical of Englishmen at the time. He passes it off on the Americans because, those Americans will do anything. Remember the time period. So he is saying, giving numbers, the 120,000 children already computed. 20,000 may be reserved for breed because any good farmer is going to hold back a certain number of female cattle, and just one male can service several females. And he is purporting the same thing in this paragraph on the bottom of 318. Again, making them like animals. He makes the horrid announcement that a child will make 2 dishes at an entertainment for friends. Think about that. Now, I believe he overestimates the birth weight of a child. He says 12 pounds. Oh, Lord, I hope not. On page 317, he points out, I grant this food will be somewhat dear. When we say something is dear to us, that means it's expensive, it's precious, it comes at a great cost. And that is very true here. He says, therefore, very proper for landlords who, as they have already devoured most of the parents, seem to have the best title to the children. The British government, the absentee landlords, they have already consumed economically the parents and driven them into poverty and starvation. He gets in a jab, religious jab here, because after all, the English Church, Anglican, Irish Church, Catholic. So he makes a point here about Lent and the number of kids coming after Lent. Now, again, more computation. I have already computed the charge of nursing a beggar's child. And he says, it's only going to be a couple shillings per annum, rags included, because you don't expect these kids to wear nice clothes. And he says, I believe no gentleman would repine, that means he wouldn't mind, to give 10 shillings for the carcass of a good fat child. Because out of that good fat child, you get at least 4 dishes of nutritive meat. The next paragraph here on 317 points out those who are more thrifty. If you know anyone who's ever raised pigs, you will know that they talk about using everything, even the squeal. He says here that people could flay the carcass, skin them, the skin of which, artificially dressed, will make admirable gloves for ladies and summer boots for fine gentlemen. Oh yes, the leather would be quite soft. Read your history with the Holocaust. Hitler actually did this. But it does give a new dimension to kid gloves. His reference to shambles here refers to where the butcher houses are. So in Dublin, they could have certain specific butcher shops. And said, even if the butchers are too busy, you could do it like lobster and take them home alive and dress them hot from the knife as we do roasting pigs. This should be very disturbing to people reading it. Now he does point out it's the little babes who have this soft, juicy meat. And as kids get a little older and a little leaner, their meat might resemble that more of venison. So here on this bottom paragraph on 317, said, the gentlemen of this kingdom, having lately destroyed their deer, they overhunted the deer. So replace the deer meat, venison, with the bodies of young lads and maidens not exceeding 14 years of age, nor under 12. Because, hey, we've got plenty of them out there. But the American acquaintance points out that their flesh was generally tough and lean, like that of our schoolboys, by continual exercise. So this meat wouldn't be as tasty or easy to eat. It'd be a little chewier. Surprisingly, he didn't suggest hunting them down in place of the deer. Now, also in this paragraph, we have another reference to breeders. We've got to save some of those girls so they can be breeders. When we turn the page and go on over to 318, we can drop down a little bit where he starts talking about the advantages. On 318, he starts listing greatly lessen the number of papists, because at the time, England looked down on the Catholics for being Roman Catholic. Get rid of them. Hey, no problem. Now remember, Swift was an Anglican priest. However, he was loyal to the Irish people, and he was greatly concerned about their welfare. He is writing this as an English gentleman who thinks it's a wonderful idea. Remember, this is satire. Second, poorer tenants will have something valuable of their own. They can actually use this to help pay off the landlord, have some money. Third, you don't have to pay to raise the 100,000 children every year. And after all, since they're beggars, the crown would have to support them. So we're saving all of that money. Plus, we have more money in the economy because people are buying the meat and there's money out there circulating. The top of 319, the constant breeders, besides the gain of 8 shillings sterling per annum for the sale of their child, will be rid the charge of maintaining them after the first year. Think of all the money your parents would have saved if after a year they didn't have to pay for you. The braces, the shoes, the clothes, all of those things they don't have to spend because they've already taken their child to be butchered. Fifth, great custom to taverns. So you could have restaurants specializing in special meals, a skillful cook. You could have a whole new menu at McDonald's. There could be McBaby sandwiches. And Carl Jr. could offer a sandwich, the Big Carl or the Baby Carl. Sixth, inducement to marriage. The men might be a little more caring. It says increase the care and tenderness of mothers toward their children. Also, the men would become as fond of their wives during the time of their pregnancy as they are now of their mares in foal, their cows and calf or sows when they are ready to farrow. Nor offer to beat or kick them, as is too frequent a practice, for fear of a miscarriage. You've already got 12 kids. She's pregnant again. There were many cases where the men would beat their wives, push them down staircases, hoping that she would miscarry. He does go on with many other advantages going on. It might save us some pigs. Those poor little piggies, we've really been eating them to death, and we might save some pigs. He goes on, talks about how financially this will benefit the kingdom, all of the possible children that this can produce for market. Now, this is our clincher here at the end. I can think of no one objection that will possibly be raised against this proposal, unless it should be urged that the number of people will be thereby much lessened in the kingdom. This I freely own. It was indeed one principal design in offering it to the world. I desire the reader will observe that I calculate my remedy for this one individual kingdom of Ireland, and for no other that ever was, is, or that I think ever can be upon earth. So only Ireland, where the English government is oppressing these people. The English government, he goes on to point out, has not come up with any solution. On 320, he says he's wearied out many years with offering vain, idle, visionary thoughts. People have suggested what could be done to help the poverty in Ireland, and they were all worthless. So he's saying, look, folks, either come up with something better than this, something that will actually work, or unfortunately, this could be your best idea. He goes on in the middle of the page on 320. First, as things now stand, how will they be able to find food and raiment for 100,000 useless mouths and backs? How are you going to feed all these people? You haven't come up with a solution. I desire these politicians who dislike my overture, you don't like what I'm saying? Fine, come up with a better idea, may perhaps be so bold as to attempt an answer, that they will first ask the parents of these mortals whether they would not at this day think it a great happiness to have been sold for food at a year old in the manner I prescribe. Hopefully nobody will. Seriously, he is using satire. But if you see your child dying in front of you, starving to death in front of you, you're starving, maybe you would wish that this had happened. In the last paragraph, he also clarifies that he is not going to make a single penny off of this. His wife is too old. His child is too old. He does not have the least personal interest. I have no children by which I can propose to get a single penny, the youngest being 9. Wife, hey, past childbearing. So he himself is not going to benefit. Please remember, satire, look at your phrasing, constant references to human beings, the Irish people, not people in general, but the Irish as less than human. He is using satire and biting sarcasm to attack the English government.